Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an airline pilot and member of the PMDG 777 beta team. Welcome to another full flight featuring the 777-300ER. And you guys asked for it so much, so here it is, Emirates. Now this livery is from Atarium Liveries and it really is a beautifully done livery. We're going to have a look at the cabin in a few moments. But first of all, what are we going to do today? We're going to fly from Dubai down to Nairobi, the capital of Kenya, which is going to be approximately a 4.5 hour flight. And this flight will serve to show you another couple of the things you regularly see flying long haul in a two-engined aircraft. So join me in the cabin of our lovely 777. Now Atarium has really done an awesome job painting the cabin of the Emirates 777. Now regardless whether we look at the business class cabin, the premium economy cabin over here, or if we go all the way back to the economy cabin, he's done an awesome job repainting this beautiful and really special livery of the Boeing 777, both inside and out. But for now, let's go forward and we are going to go into the cockpit where we'll study the flight plan and prepare our aircraft for the flight today. It's just a long aircraft, it takes a little while to walk through all of this, but we'll get there in a few moments. Okay, so, and here we are. Alrighty, so it's a rather modern representation of the 777 with the Alpha 6 Echo November Victor, which even has the new Emirates livery painted on it. So, new and old, for those of you who can't really distinguish, the main difference is the flag on the tailplane, which has really been changed compared to the earlier Emirates livery. But it looks pretty nice, doesn't it? Okay, so into the cockpit and we are going to have a look into our aircraft. So we're going to start down on the Universal Flight Tablet. We will import our Simbri flight plan over here and we'll have a quick look over the briefing package as we start to prepare our aircraft. But first things first, I am going to turn on that aileroo so that it can start to align. Okay, and now let's go ahead and have a little look over the en route charts. So we depart from the United Arab Emirates and we're going to fly through the Oman FIR down into Sana'a, and from there we'll fly over the ocean as we got to avoid the war zone currently active down here, over the Mogadishu FIR through Addis Ababa down to Nairobi. Now, a couple of specialties along this flight. You can see that even though there are quite a couple of airports available along the route, a lot of them are not really usable for us. For that reason, the flight is actually an ETOPS flight. So if we have a look into our map, then we can see that the entire area between Dubai and basically Addis Ababa up here is going to be ETOPS. Because while there are a lot of airports over there, we cannot really assure the security down there. For that reason, we will avoid them and we will fly this part of the flight ETOPS. Now, this is something you commonly see on long-haul flights. Even though you might be flying over a populated area, and even though there may be airports available, they may not necessarily be suitable for a landing. For that reason, ETOPS it is. Okay, so with a look at our general flight plan over here, let's go ahead and have a look into the weather forecast so that we can make a fuel decision. And we are going to start this one right down... Oh man, there is so much information in this flight plan. Right down here. Okay, so Dubai, 40 degrees, Cav OK, QNH 993, so not exactly favorable conditions for our takeoff. And looking at our destination, we have 21 degrees, broken clouds, and it's gonna stay pretty similar to those conditions all day long. So, well, not really a lot to worry about in terms of the weather of our flight. So then we just gotta ensure that our simulator is actually set to the correct time. So the real world departure time is 0630 UTC. And what I like to do when I'm using time acceleration with my flight is to kind of set them to the real time at which the flight happens. So in case of this, we've got 0630 scheduled off block. So if we take something like 0604, that should normally give us a nice off block time. So I draw up the schedule over here based upon the real Emirates schedule, and then I like to set my simulator to this time as well. It just looked really cool with the sun behind the aircraft for the initial couple of pictures. So in case you're wondering, well, that's what's going on over here. Okay then, so in terms of weather, we are using active sky for today's flight, so that's my setup. Alright then. We know that the weather is good, and we can quickly check the weather at our alternate as well. So that is going to be down here. Moi International in Mombasa is our primary alternate. And we've got good weather over in Mombasa as well. But quite a temperature difference there. Mombasa at the coast of the Indian Ocean, 30 degrees, and inland, just 21. Okay, well, for our performance, 21 is certainly the better one. So we can live with that. Okay then, let's go ahead and have a look into our fuel. Now, we are planned with 45,700 kilograms of block fuel. That does not include any extra, but I don't really see why we would take extra today anyway. So, basically, if we make that 46 tons, we should be good to go. Alright then. So, then we can go ahead and start to prepare our aircraft. So, starting with the oil quantity, that is looking good for today's flight. We need at least 17 quarts for flights of less than 6 hours. And of course, we need to carry sufficient oil to come all the way back as well. Hydraulic quantity is good, APU oil quantity good, oxygen is looking good as well. Perfect. And finally, the recall. What do we have here? Hydraulic pressure, nav aider inertial, engine shutdown. Well, that is all standard stuff here, nothing to worry about. Alright, then we can cancel that away again, and that's it. Alright. So, then let's go ahead with our FMC setup. We've got a 777-300, and the IRAC is current. Position in it, we'll take the GPS position, and we're going to request the current SimBrief route, set payload, set fuel, and select the route up here. Now, a little tip there. Don't click too many things while the route uplink is in progress. That can kind of lead to FMC freezes, it seems. So, just don't click too many things over here. Just give the plane all the time it needs to uplink everything. In the meantime, what we can do, if we are impatient, is we can go ahead and set our fuel through the third FMC down here, like this. And we can always turn off our transponder. I'm really not sure why PMDG decided to keep that thing in the Tara position on any parked panel state. But well, they did, so we gotta live with it. Okay, scratch pad messages are read, and here we go. So runway 30 right, ANVIX 7 Foxtrot departure, and for the arrival, well, let's make it easy. Let's have a look at what we got. Whiskey Alpha Victor, well, YG 1 Romeo, runway 24. That sounds about good. Okay, so it's going to be the RNAV approach runway 24 then. Oh, I tell you what, the wind was 130 at 9. We might as well just do the ILS approach then. So ILS runway 06. Well, even though that means we gotta fly around the airport, I tell you what, we'll take the RNAV 24 for now, and then we'll reconsider as soon as we get closer to our destination, depending on what the current weather is going to be then. So, YG1 Romeo arrival, and for our transition, let's cheat. We end up at Abdus, and we do a transition from there. Excellent. So, we're going to copy that, Lex page. We are first of all going to load up the wind, and then we are going to have a look at our chart. So, departure, sit, and we're looking for the ANVIX 7 Foxtrot departure. Here we go. Lots of restrictions there. So let's go ahead and have a look. Okay, straight out Delta Bravo 570, that's minimum 180 knots. We'll easily meet that. Then we've got waypoint 586, minimum 190 above 2500. Then we have 587, max 220 above 3500. 588, max 230 above 4500. 589 above 6000. 571 above 7500. 572, max 250 above 9000. And then we proceed via Ulado, Rapmo, Low Puff, and Anvix above 10,000. Looks good. Initial climb clearance is going to be 4,000, and that's mostly it seems. Okay. Excellent. So with that, our SID is checked. I will remove that 190 knot restriction here so that the airplane does not try to maintain 190 initially, because remember, this is minimum 190 knots. So the 777 FMC doesn't know minimum or maximum. It treats any speed restriction as a maximum. For that reason, I've removed the 190 because we can accelerate further there. We just gotta manually think about flying at least 190 knots over here. But let's be honest, we want to do that anyway, do we? Okay, so that is our routing check then. So let's go ahead and uplink our winds. And here they come. Excellent. So 2082 miles, and in the plan we have 2089 miles. Excellent. Don't need anything in the RATNAV. On the fix info, we'll just go with Dubai and a 25-mile ring for MSA awareness over here. Now, if we look into the departure chart itself, we could draw a line over here to mark the area where the MSA goes down a little bit. But let's be completely honest over here. If we've got an engine failure, we're just going to climb straight out over the open water. And the only reason we've got the 3,800 MSA here is because of the high buildings over the city. But I don't see any reason to draw anything here. We should be good to go with that. Okay, so 13,000 transition altitude. That is in line with the chart. And then we can go to the init reference page, accept the uplink over here. 8.6 reserves, 340, and cost index 36. Now if we just have a look at this, then okay. It doesn't calculate that yet because we don't have zero fuel weight in. Fair enough, that was my bad. Okay, and acceleration and thrust reduction at 1,000, and that's it. So last thing for us to do is to cross-check our route uplink. First of all, I'm going to copy that route one more time so that we really have the latest data in route 2, and then we've got Anvix, Romeo 401 Gides, Golf 783 Ukrak, Lima 710 Kukdi, Bravo 400 towards Regam, Bravo 403 Bomix, Upper Bravo 403 Mike Alpha Victor, Upper Papa 312 Whiskey Alpha Victor, and from there we've got the arrival. Perfect. So our route uplink is good, and with that we're good to go. Okay, so back to our charts, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that we get our taxi chart right down here. Okay. So then we can bring the door page back up and do the rest of our flight deck setup. Aileron on. Well, this is literally just quickly going over anything that there is. Fueling is finished, so seatbelts can come on, and everything's good on the top. Then we can get down to our EFIS control panel. Let's see what the latest weather is over here in Dubai. So, TWIP request. I'm looking for OMDB. A single request will be good. Through the PMDG server, please send that out. I do believe the QNH is from the forecast somewhere around 993 or so, so let's already pre-select that, and then we'll see when the actual weather comes. So, reset all the electronic checklist. We've already done the weather request, so that should come in any moment, I hope. Yep, there comes our weather. So, Dubai, 310, slightly variable, 40 degrees, 90903. And we have 993 set there, and 993 now also set here. Excellent. Okay, and that's our flight deck setup completed. So, let's see, the IRS should be aligned by now, and indeed it is. So let's go ahead and do the pre-flight checklist, please. So, oxygen, tested, 100%. Flight instruments, heading 029, altimeter 993, reading 20. Set left, and set right. Pre-flight checklist complete. And we don't need this anymore. Neither do we need the TAF anymore. Excellent. So that good stuff is done. Alright. Then, let's go ahead and do the performance. And at the same time, we can go ahead and start to disconnect all the equipment. So the APU was running anyway. Then, ground vehicles, release all, door management, close all. And then into the performance tool. So we've got Dubai, 30 right. We'll take the intersection for the departure, or at least we'll calculate it. So we can find that down here on the airport chart, if we go all the way down, airport. So 30 right is 4,351 meters long, and we basically want to calculate Mike 13 intersection. So if we take this part of the runway here and look at the scale down here, then I would say that's around about 500 meters-ish. Something like that. So 4,351 minus 500, 3,851. So if we change the runway length in here towards 3,851, dry runway should be good to go. Okay then, for our performance, we've got the gross weight of 272.7, so let's just take 273. And we can grab the center of gravity from down here, from the fuel page, so 30.7. Okay, finally, if we have a look at the weather again, we can find that in the review, uplink, weather. So 300 at 10, slightly variable, 250 and 320, so 250 at 10 is the most conservative wind here. Temperature 40 and the QNH is 993. Okay, calculate that, and that gives us 59 degrees assumed temperature. So we go 59, 93.3% N1, that matches. Okay, takeoff page, flaps 5 takeoff, CG of 30.7, so we'll make that 31. 4.25 units of trim, which is in line with the trim on the EFB, and the speed 65, 69, 72, and those all match. Excellent. Okay, and finally, the engine out acceleration height is 1,000 feet, and we have that in our FMC as well. Okay, perfect. Then we are good to go down here. We can stow our EFB again, maybe bring up the taxi chart. Well, we'll bring up the SID chart over here, and then we can bring up the taxi chart over here. Makes our life a little bit easier. Okay, so, GSX, start to prepare for pushback and departure, please. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon from the flight deck. This is your captain speaking. My name is Emmanuel, and in the name of Emirates, I would like to welcome you all on our flight to Nairobi. Flight time today, 4 hours 20 minutes, and we do expect a smooth flight at an altitude of 36,000 feet. You are all very welcome aboard this aircraft, and if there is anything we can do for you to make it more enjoyable, please do not hesitate to ask any of our cabin crew. Again, thank you very much for your attention, and welcome aboard. So that's our crew dealt with. Or our passengers. In that case, let's go ahead and run the before start procedure. So 172, LNAV, VNAV. And we'll go for a heading of 299 with an altitude of 4,000. Pressurize the right hydraulic system first, wait until the fault light is out, and then we can do the remaining parts of the hydraulic system. Fuel in center message shouldn't show today, and it doesn't. Excellent. So, 4.25 units of trim down here, and the transponder comes on. Okay, before start checklist down to beacon. So, flight deck door. Closed and locked. MCP, V2 172, heading 299, altitude 4000. Takeoff speeds, V1 165, VR 169, V2 172. CDU preflight, complete, trim, 4.25 units, 0 and 0. Taxi and takeoff briefing. We'll assume that completed. B4 start checklist complete down to beacon. Okay then, ready to go. All that's waiting, or all that's missing now is the beacon. So it's going to be nose left on uniform, please. Is there any equipment still connected? Well, cabin crew, all doors in flight. That's looking good. And the chocks are removed as well now. Excellent. Okay then, pushback is approved. Beacon on. Before start checklist complete. Ground from cockpit. Go ahead. Please confirm all doors and hatches are closed, ground equipment removed, and bypass pin is installed. That's all confirmed, Captain. Roger, thank you. You are clear to push facing west on uniform. Park and brake released. Roger, pushing back on uniform, stand by for engine start. Standing by. Okay, and off we go. So, we normally gotta wait until we're clear of the parking area, so that should be more or less now. Ground from cockpit. Go ahead. So, clear to start engines. Roger, we'll start in sequence 2 then 1. Starting 2. Okay, right engine start. Fully automatic, I really do like that. There is only one situation under which you need to manually interrupt the engine start, and that is if there is no oil pressure by the time that EGT rises. So fuel is introduced now. EGT will start to rise any moment. Here we go. And if there is no oil pressure by now, then we need to do the aborted engine start non-normal checklist. Apart from that though, as you can see, not a problem at all. And starting engine 1. So left engine start. So push complete, set brakes please. Brake set. So the end of the engine start sequence is indicated by the red line, by the EGT start limit vanishing from the ICAS. Now. Okay, ground, we've got 2 good engine starts. You're clear to disconnect. Show me the pin on the right side and prepare the airplane for taxi. Have a good day. Certainly don't need anti-ice in 40 degrees. So, flight controls. Full up. Full down. Neutral. Full left. full right, neutral. Standing by for the rudder until we can see the ramp agent has gone away. And here she comes, rudder. Full left. Full right. Neutral. Before taxi checklist. Anti-ice. Auto. Recall. Checked. Flight controls. Checked. Ground equipment. Clear. Before taxi checklist complete. And the clear signal is received. Taxi. Come on, you may walk away now. Here she goes. Clear left side, clear right side. Off we go. So, taxi in Dubai can be rather lengthy. Basically, you are going all the way around the terminals down here, up to the north, and then you taxi in between the two runways to the runway. That can take quite a bit of time, unfortunately, but that's how they normally do it, because they try to avoid runway crossings as much as possible. The only good news is that there is, well, technically speaking, a speed limit, but it looks like people don't really adhere to it over here, so we can go 30 knots all the way up here. Of course, if you run into an airplane at 30 knots, then, well, that's gonna become expensive, but you get the general idea. So, this is definitely going to take a little bit of time right now. Next up on our standard operating procedures, we wait for the cabin ready signal to occur, and that should probably come at some point during the taxi. And as soon as that happens, we can turn on the weather radar and the terrain display as needed, and then run the before takeoff checklist. For now, we keep the before takeoff checklist visible on the ECL down there until the cabin ready signal is received. That is basically so that we have a reminder about the actual cabin ready indication. Now, the airplane is only going to show us the cabin ready for a certain period in time. I don't remember how long exactly, I believe 30 seconds or something, maybe a minute, and after that the cabin ready indication vanishes from the ICAS again. So by only doing the before takeoff checklist, well, here it comes. When we now only do the before takeoff checklist after the cabin ready is received, this basically serves as a reminder. As long as it is visible, the cabin is not ready for departure. As soon as we hide it, the cabin is ready for departure. And the good news is that the electronic checklists have some automatic protection built in. If you line up on the runway before or without completing the before takeoff checklist, you will get an ICAS caution that's going to remind you. So that makes it a rather safe system. Okay then, weather on my side, terrain on yours, before takeoff checklist. Before takeoff checklist complete. Most of those turns in Dubai have a rather large radius. For that reason you can taxi through them at a little bit more than 10 knots, but nonetheless, remember, you've got a very long aircraft. You're putting a lot of strain on your aircraft if you just if you go quickly into turns, and you may not necessarily want to do that. Okay, so clear right side and clear left side. Then we can turn to the right and then into Lima 4 Bravo. Now this is definitely a little bit of a sharper turn, so speed back towards 10 knots. Wait until the line is in the aft part of the window, and now we can go through the turn. And this is proper oversteering technique. The main wheel probably remained somewhere very close to the center line like this. And we do the same going to the other side. You see, this is really a large aircraft now. Not comparable to a 737. And you can see the plane is just going straight as soon as we reach our taxi line, which indicates that we've done a proper lineup. In general, try to feel your aircraft during turns. In my opinion, the best technique for aligning yourself on the center line is by trying to imagine where the center of the turn is located behind you, and then use that center of the turn, because that is normally where your main wheels are. So like now, you can more or less feel that we are about on the center line here, or at least that the airplane is turning right on the center line. That's my personal technique on how to taxi a wide-body aircraft. But this technique works basically in any aircraft. And as you can see, with a constant rate of turn, we basically end up right on the center line over here. So that's how it should be. That's how you should taxi an aircraft like this. So, 30 knots, no more. And the moment I say that, it goes to 31. Here we go, back to 30. Alright, so let's review our takeoff briefing. It's going to be a left seat takeoff, runway 30 right, flaps 5, noise abatement procedure number 2. The takeoff speeds are 165, 169, 172, and our SID has an initial speed restriction of 220 knots, so we might have to keep flaps 1 extended after the, or for the initial climb. Apart from that, climbing initially to altitude 4,000 feet, higher by air traffic control, and I am pretty sure we are going to get higher pretty quickly today. Apart from that, I have no specials and nothing non-standard over here. And I think that's it. In case of emergency, straight ahead. On the runway track, climbing 3,000, that's going to keep us safe over the water. Any questions? No? Excellent. So some people have asked about doing packs off takeoffs in the 777. Now, packs off is not normally done. I know that Airbus does it a lot, but neither on the 737 nor on the 777 you would normally do a packs off takeoff. If you need the additional performance from the packs, then you would use the APU bleed to pressurize the cabin instead of just doing an unpressurized takeoff. So, how much further is it? Well, almost there it seems. It's a large airport, Dubai. It's really a large airport. We started our pushback roundabout at 0620 and it's now 0632, and I'm literally going full speed the entire time. Imagine what it is like to taxi over here in the real world when there basically is, well, a lot of traffic in front of you. Also had a quick look at the fuel usage. We have already used 400 kilograms of fuel over here, and that's just with about 13 minutes taxi time now. So the 777 can easily consume 1,000 kilos of fuel on your flight. Easily. Okay, reaching the holding points. Can start breaking it down. So we go all the way to Mike 15 Alpha today. We take the full runway length because why not? It is available after all. We do pay for it, then we might as well just use it. Cabin crew, prepare for departure. I really like how simple the operating procedures of the 777 are. Like, we just do the lights, tell the cabin crew to sit down, ready. Anything else was covered in the SOP beforehand, so you don't really need to worry about anything. I really like that. It's a very simple aircraft to operate, once you know your way around. It is, of course, highly automated, but the actual operation is pretty easy. Okay, ready for rolling takeoff? Takeoff. Stabilized. Set thrust. Thrust set.
8 knots.
Checked.
Rotate. Positive rate of climb.
Gear up. $400. And we've got LNAV and VNAV. We'll do a little bit of hand flying, because I really like the flight dynamics of the 777. So, passing 1,000, we can start accelerating. As you can see, we will have to keep flaps 1 out. So, flaps 1. I'll show you a little bit of my control column down here, so that you can see how I'm handling the aircraft. In general, try to keep the control column with as little movements as possible. And a beautiful look down at Dubai. Just wonderful, isn't it? Okay, 1,000 to go, but let's say ATC clears as high as straight away. We'll go up to 10,000. So, aircraft is in trim. Maybe slightly out of trim. I think I need a tiny bit of upwards movement here. So just do small trim input until the airplane actually maintains whatever you want it to be. And as you can see, it flies really, really nicely. A very stable platform, the 777. A very stable platform. So we can pull that out. Maybe just keep an eye on the sit chart over here. Though sometimes a couple of gusts can turn it to the side, well, like any aircraft. Okay, so over the next waypoint, the 220 restriction becomes 230. And I'm probably going to override the 230 to become 236, so that we can go ahead and retract our flaps. So 236, flaps up. And the flaps are showing up. Anti-ice is auto. After takeoff checklist. after takeoff checklist complete. So, speed control is back to automatic. Engine's running on climb thrust, so we can reset the clock. The elapsed timer is running automatically. In the version of the plane equipped with the digital watches. Okay, and here we go. So, climbing higher, we'll go to 30,000 initially, and then we'll take a little moment to have a look at our optimum cruise altitude in a moment. So, passing 10,000. Lights off. Remember, we have a 250 knot restriction, so we are just going to maintain the speed over here. And we can't release the cabin crew yet, because our deck angle is still above 7 degrees. We should only release the seatbelt signs if the pitch of the aircraft is less than 7 degrees, so just underneath here. Otherwise, it is just too dangerous to take all the trolleys and everything out, and we really want to avoid anyone injuring themselves, right? So, over at 572, the speed restriction is going to be lifted, but we might of course just assume that ATC has cleared it for us now, so let's delete it, and then we can start our acceleration. So again, I'll show you the yoke down here as I'm flying the aircraft. Always keep it in trim. As you can see, minimal input really is all we need. As we accelerate, we do need a little bit more forward control column pressure, which we can just immediately trim out again. And then the aircraft flies very, very nicely. Set standard. Standard cross-checked, passing flight level 140 now. Checked. So, a tiny left-hand turn. And here we are on course. Going back to a wings level position. And that's it really. You can see short, small movements is all you need to fly the aircraft. Flies really beautifully. Don't do what many flight simmers do, which is... that really leads you nowhere. Just do short and deliberate inputs, and that really steers the airplane very nicely. Autopilot. And then our pitch is below 7 degrees. Seatbelts auto. Alright, and with that we are basically clear of the immediate terminal area. So let's go ahead and have a look into our weather scenario. So it's past 0600 UTC, that means a new wind data should be available. Let's go ahead and request that. As soon as it comes, we'll hear the chime, so we don't need to look at the FMC all the time. Here it comes. Chime, FMC, wind data, load. Execute, and are we going to get a forecast as well? Most likely, still in progress. And here's the forecast. We're going to load that one as well. So, 1051 is going to be our arrival time, and the schedule is 11:35. So we are going to arrive well ahead of time. That is excellent. Then we can go ahead and save a little bit of fuel, or at least we can experiment with it. So if we go down to the progress page here, init ref over here. So what happens if we go cost index 0? Actually uses a little bit more. Okay. So CI36 gives us the better result then. Okay. And for our cruising altitudes, what do we have? Optimum 344, max 357, recommended 320. Is that due to the wind? I mean, most likely it is, but it's around about an easterly wind getting stronger with altitude. Yep, so that's why it's calculating 320. Doesn't seem to make too much sense though. In my opinion, it would make more sense to climb a little bit higher. Especially since we get into the colder air. Well, I'm kind of inclined to try 340 instead. Especially if we look at our flight plan, that is what they filed as well, so let's make it 340. Like that. Okay, 340 set and checked, and with that we are on the way. So the next thing we can prepare is the ETOPS section of our flight. Might as well go all the way down. Here it is. So ETOPS, entries based on Dubai, 446 miles. And the equal time point is located at 768 miles. So we can also insert that ring. 768, here it is. And then our other airport is Addis Ababa, which we can insert over here. So we've got 444 miles for the exit. And 780 miles for the equal time point. So here it is. Okay, then excellent. So now that we took care of this, we might as well go ahead and request those weathers. So, flight information, TWIP request, Hotel Alpha Alpha Bravo, single request, PMDG server, send. We know that Dubai is going to stay good. We have the weather and the forecast available already. So looking at the forecast, excellent weather conditions. Dubai is definitely safe for use. Well, and then all that's left is we can mark our FIR boundaries. So Muscat is at MEM2. Mark that on here. And thereafter we have Sanaa at Imkat. Alright, and that's the two boundaries that we need at the moment. So let's look at the weather of Addis Ababa then. We've got good conditions all over, and the forecast is looking good as well. So overall, nothing to worry about. Good weather conditions all over. Alright, excellent. So the only one thing that I am going to do then, before we are basically done with everything, is to insert the step climb. As I mentioned, the 777 sometimes calculates step climbs that get to a much too high altitude. So I'm going to use it from the plan. So at Darrett, flight level 360. So let's find Darrett. Here it is. And we'll take 360S at Darrett, put that in, and here we go. So, step climb in 1,000 miles, so that's round about halfway through the flight. Recommended altitude has now changed to flight level 340 as well. We're arriving well ahead of schedule. What else could you possibly ask for? Well, a co-pilot to synchronize your heading, but that would be nice. But I guess we can't ask for too much, can we? Okay, here we go. So apart from that, it's now a long straight line, or a long almost straight line. Will be straight once we pass that point over here. What I always find impressive is how the climb performance of the 777 suffers in higher altitudes. So, take a look at that. We're in 27,000 feet right now, and the outside temperature is just minus 11 degrees centigrade. While the TAT is still plus 19 degrees. That's really, really impressive, isn't it? And, well, we can see the immediate result over here. The plane only climbs at 1,000 feet a minute. That's the 777 for you guys. Of course, in colder weather conditions, or let's just say in standard weather conditions, the plane would climb a lot better. But, well, we can't ask for anything and everything, so that is good to go. Now, I know some people will be asking, so let me just show you how I'm going to record the rest of this flight, because I am going to use some time acceleration here, and I have simply bound myself some controls on the keyboard, and you can see down here the color of the time indication changes depending on the simulation rate, which is a very nice indicator there. And I just really like how the airplane is capable of taking all these turns without any issues now. PMDG have really done an amazing job on that. It's not like I didn't push them a little bit for this feature, so I was one of the persons behind that thing. But just look at how beautifully the airplane now handles time acceleration. No problem at all. Well, and at the same time, look at how awful the airplane climbs. Less than 1,000 feet a minute. Well, under standard atmospheric conditions, that's about what you get from the A330. And no more than that. But the 777 normally is a different beast. Now we've transitioned to a constant Mach number rather than constant indicated airspeed, so the plane climbs a little bit faster once again. I just want to get this all the way up to the cruising altitude so that I can show you the checks that we would be doing as soon as we reach our top of climb, and once that is done we are going to fast forward this a little bit so that it doesn't get too boring throughout the flight. So, reaching our target altitude, VNAV path is coming on. We're leveling off. Very small overshoot, that can still happen in time acceleration, but I really don't judge that to be much of a problem. Well, and the aircraft is now going to return back to its altitude smoothly, and like that we're going to resume our cruise flight. Okay then, so reaching our cruising altitude, we can do a couple of checks here. So let's just go back to real time for a moment. First of all, I want my flight plan, please. Here it is. So, top of climb, flight level 340, 18 minutes versus 24. Well, I guess that is because SimRead does probably not take the effect of the atmospheric conditions into account here. Look at that, we still have plus 4 degrees on the TAT gauge here, so the aircraft is really suffering in the heat of the Middle East. Nonetheless, we can do a fuel check over at Gokmi, which we are passing right now. So got me should be 27 minutes, and it is 25, so we saved a little bit. Should have 38 tons on board with 7.7 used, and we have 38.8 on board, 7.2 used. So the fuel check adds up. Also, if we do 7.2 plus 38.8, that brings us 46 tons, which is exactly what we uplifted on the ground. Next up, we are going to insert the alternates, so we will be using Dubai over here. We will be using our ETOPS alternates straight away. And finally we can also enter Muscat down here, which is located just over here and is also an Emirates destination. Of course, the en route chart is our chart of choice, because it gives us a good situational awareness. Something like that. It gives us a very good awareness of where we are, when to expect frequency changes and that good stuff. So now we can put the Universal Flight Tablet away. Last thing there, on long haul we always keep an eye on the weather at the airports around us. So the only one of those that we haven't checked yet is Muscat, so OOMS. Can enter that in here, do a weather request through the PMDG server, send that out. And that's literally going to be it then. We leave the upper one, or the upper indication free over here, so that the FMC automatically shows us the nearest airport that it has in the database, just in case you need something. Apart from that, our setup is really done over here. There's not much more that we need to worry about. We can go ahead though and select the next FIR boundary, since we've just overflown the one into Muscat at MEM2. So that our FMC is always prepared as well as possible. So we got Mogadishu over here at Bomix. And here we go. So that's also selected now. Well, and with that, all our preparations are done. We'll leave the en route chart open, that is normally what we do. Okay, here's our weather for Muscat, and surprise, it's very good weather conditions. Who would have thought that? Okay, then we can click all this good stuff away, and we are now settled in flight. Step climb is 1,000 miles ahead, so nothing we need to worry about right now. And then, I'd say, enjoy the flight, everyone. I'll give you some nice perspective over here so that we can see the terrain pass by. In the real world, we would have closed all the sun visors and everything because, well, it's just incredibly bright outside. But for our simulation, this is pretty much all we need. So for now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight with us. We start getting closer to our destination and the top of descent is coming in. Now, on long haul flying, something about 250 miles out from the top of descent is normally where we are going to start checking out our destination. So let's go ahead and request our weather here. So we are looking the weather at HKJK. I keep forgetting that ICAO code. And since we are going to be on arrival, I am going to request an automatic update. So that is going out right now. And then when the arrival weather comes in, here it is. It's now 110 kilometers, 1024, broken clouds still. So those broken cloud layers seem to be pretty common over there. So let's go ahead and just do a setup like that. It's a high-lying cloud layer, so nothing to worry about. But the wind direction clearly shows us that the weather is favoring runway 26, so we'll have to change our arrival in here. Apart from that, before we start the planning itself, a quick look at the ECL. There are no notes over here, and we can do a recall as well. And there are no stored malfunctions. Okay then, time to grab our charts and have a look. So, arrival. We are going to start with the airport charts themselves. Down here, and the parking stands down here. Then, let's go ahead and see which arrival we can expect. So, according to our flight plan, we are going to arrive via Whiskey Alpha Victor and the Waji 1 Romeo arrival. Let's see if we've got anything similar for runway 06. And this actually looks exactly like it. So Waji 1 Alpha towards Apnon, and then if we have a look at the available approaches, let's see, ILS Zulu, well, probably not. ILS Whiskey, probably not. ILS, that looks about like it. At least that one starts down at Apnom down there. So Jomok to Charlie from Apnom. Let's see how we can fit that into the FMC. So Jomok to Charlie. And then we've got the Waji 1 Alpha. So that seems to be about it. Let's go ahead and have a look. Yeah, that looks pretty much like what I would expect. Excellent. So, our speeds are looking good. The forecast, we are just going to request the latest over here. Let's see, transition level, flight level 100, and that's from the database. Let's quickly wait a moment until the descent forecast winds arrive. Here they are. Okay, gonna load that up. So, fixed page. We can basically remove anything over here that is not our destination. So, here we go, 25-mile ring around that. And if we just look at the MSAs, then, well, we've got 9.6, which kind of sticks out over here. So, let's just go ahead and mark that on the ND. So, we'll take 360 and 270, just so that we have this sector up here marked. And that's around November Victor, which is more or less at the field, so nothing to worry about. Okay, excellent. So then we can go ahead and check all the waypoints themselves. So starting on the star, we come in from Wajir VOR, and that's down southbound towards Arturo. We've got Wajir and Arturo, and thereafter on towards Apnam, and from there we are going to join the approach, which is the ILS runway 06 that we have available over here. Apnam above 9,100 feet, which we have, towards IMDIS above 7,900 feet. And, well, I just have to say that the speeds are rather high in here. I'm going to give it a 220 knot restriction over at Abnom already. That should slow us down a little bit, make the entire approach a little bit more comfortable. So then we've got IMDIS 7,900 feet, and then we fly on towards Jomok, and from there towards Antuk 7,100 feet, and that's just 5 nautical miles out. 190 knots is much too fast for that. So let's go ahead and correct that. We're going to give it a speed restriction, probably at Jomok, I suppose. Well, we might even just do it at IMDIS. Let's make that 180 knots over here, just so that we don't come in too fast. You have to realize the airport is at a runway elevation of 5,300 feet. So if we are there at 220 knots indicated, that's going to be 250 knots true airspeed, and we definitely don't want to do that. So we are going to limit the speeds manually over here. That should provide us with a little bit more decent true airspeed on the approach. Okay, so now we can go forward here again, and we have the Fox India that is very close to the airport here, just 4 nautical miles. 170 knots is much too fast, but we're not going to fly that anyway. 3-degree glide slope is correct, and in case of missed approach, we fly on runway heading to 6,000 or November Victor, whichever is earlier. So we've got November Victor and 6,000 over here, but that is slightly wrong, it seems. So it is whichever is earlier. That means at 6,000, if we reach 6,000 before the VOR, which I would expect we do, thanks to the awesome climb performance of the 777, then turn right, climbing to 9,000 to Tango Victor VOR and hold, or as directed. So Tango Victor is in here, 9,000 is in here. We're just going to be sure with that November Victor at 6,000 here. If we reach 6,000 earlier, we just make the right turn a little bit earlier. Okay. So then, 9,900 kilos on arrival. Versus right now, 14,100 in the tanks. That means we use 4,200 kilos to landing. So that's a landing weight of 236.6. Here we go, and then we can do a little bit of mathematics. Landing runway 06, full length. Well, landing weight 236.6. Flaps 30. Aircon on, anti-ice off, VRF addition 5 knots. Let's just verify that weather one more time. $100 at 10. The temperature is 20 degrees and the QNH 1024. Okay, calculate that. 2,430 meters. So let's have a look at our ground chart. Oh, that's the wrong airport. This one looks better. So 06, 4,000 meters in total. And to me it looks like Lima is somewhere around 3,000 meters down the runway. So Echo is probably somewhere down in the middle. So I guess we'll end up somewhere here in the middle. Let's see what we can do with auto brakes 2. No, not you. You. So if we take auto brake 2, 2,761, that looks a lot better to me. So that way we should easily be able to vacate the runway via Lima and then taxi via Golf somewhere down here to the apron. Parking stance, we'll have to see where exactly we're going to park, and I think that's mostly it then. Okay. So auto brakes 2, flaps 30, and then all we need is the minimum. Let me show you a little trick here. So you've got a rather high minimum at 5,530 feet. But if you want to dial that in a little bit quicker, of course you could just use the minimum selector over here, and this already works a lot better than what the 737 had. But if you want to cheat, you'll use the FMC. You go to menu, EFIS control on, EFIS, and then you can just type your minimums in. So we got 5,530, and we simply type that into here, minimum set, bingo. It's just very important that afterwards you turn the EFIS controls back off again, because otherwise your entire EFIS control panel is going to be disabled. Alright, and here we are. That's our arrival completely prepared. So from here on, all we do is the approach briefing. We did a recall already, and then we can do the descent checklist. Recall, checked. Notes, checked. Auto brakes, level 2. Landing data, Vera 30-145, minimums barometric 5530. Approach briefing, completed. Descent checklist, complete. And there we go, my friends. That's about as easy as it is to do this. So I suggest we just fast forward a little bit again. And then I see you all as we start our approach into Nairobi. So we're getting closer to the airport, and we can continue our descent all the way down to level 100 roundabout. Now, we forgot one thing during our earlier setup here, and that was the setup of the deceleration altitude. So Nairobi is located at an altitude of 5,000 feet above ground, so we should probably consider reducing our speeds, not at flight level 100, but much rather at flight level 150. Can't enter that in the 777, but we can put it on here, and that's going to override the previous restriction. That might put us a little bit high on profile right now, but okay, 300 feet, not really much of a concern. The 777 has super effective speed brakes, so if we need to lose a little bit of speed a bit later, that's not going to be any problem. Okay, the seatbelt signs have already been turned on, and from here on we can start getting ready for the approach. We got some weather update here a couple moments ago. So looking at this, let's just review the latest over here. It is from 10:36 and it's still broken clouds, 2,400, 20 degrees, 1024. The wind has reduced a tiny bit. The only thing that currently catches me is that I don't see any broken clouds over here. It is cavalcade. This is interesting, because I am using Active Sky on this flight. So, who knows, maybe Active Sky has caught a couple of problems at the moment. Even though I'm not aware of any, but, well. We'll give it a go. I believe the airport is somewhere over here. Probably, or maybe this little bit brighter spot over here could be as well. But hey, if it's cavalcade instead of cloudy, then sure enough that is going to make up for a little bit nicer weather even. For sure Active Sky says it is connected, but well, we'll leave it at that, will we? So approaching 10,000 above the ground, lights are coming on, seatbelts are on anyway. Cabin crew, prepare for landing. Okay then, so let's go down 9,100, which is our first cleared level now. Set QNH. QNH 1024 cross-check, passing 15,800 now. Okay, VNAV speed has engaged, so the plane is going to deviate from the path now. We'll just let it reduce speed and then we'll use the speed braking in order to go down. I'll show you that it is no problem to do that in the 777 at all. Okay, approach checklist. Altimeters, QNH 1024. Approach checklist complete. So, whereabout is Nairobi? It's gotta be over there. Yeah, I think that's the airport, right down here. Yeah, that's definitely it. We can actually tell the passenger terminal up there. So, with all of that in our minds, we could go ahead and see if we can find out which gate we're going to park on. And for that, Flight Radar 24 is really useful. So, can bring it up here. Here it is, Flight Radar. You can see I picked my departure gate and the taxi routing basically based on Flight Radar. And if we just zoom out a little bit, let's see if the coverage in Nairobi is good enough that we can actually tell our parking gate. It is! That's excellent! So with this we know our taxi routing as well, devacated at the end, just like we have also planned. Or, well, at the last taxiway I should say, not at the end. And then via the first apron entry down to the gate number, what's that, 7. Okay, I really do like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and have a little bit of fun. Autopilot coming off. And you might have noticed that we did not get any autopilot disconnect alert. Now, there is a reason for that. And that reason is that this is an optional alert in the Boeing 777. So it's not a bug in the PMDG in some liveries like you might be inclined to think. No, it is actually a feature because airlines can choose if they want the autopilot alert to play or not. Right, cabin ready is received. And then we've got 700 feet deviation from the path roundabout. Let me show you what that speed brake can do. So, even though I'm just going to apply a little bit of partial speed brake here, have a look at the descent rate that develops. Normally, we would expect round about 1,400 feet a minute in idle, but when you pull those speed brakes you can get about 3,000 feet a minute if you go full speed brake. That's really, really good. And just look at how awesome stable the aircraft is. I need to do nothing. Okay then, speed brake's going back in. And look at that, even the retracted speed brake doesn't have any effect on the aircraft's trim. So basically I need to do nothing at all. And you can see that the aircraft more or less returns exactly to its trimmed speed. That's very nice behavior. And that's exactly how the C-Star U-Law of Boeing works. You only got to be a little bit careful when the auto throttle starts coming up, because now the airplane would simply remain at its target speed and just keep flying the more shallow path. So be a little bit careful with the auto throttle and make sure that you don't accidentally mess up with it. So we're going to have a little bit of tailwind, 10 knots tailwind on our base lag. Might just start to reduce our speed and get the flaps out a little bit earlier then. So speed intervent. And we start the right hand turn, flaps 1, speed checked, flaps 1. Just look at how awesome it flies and with how little control input it does so. Okay, flaps 5. Speed checked. Flaps 5. Going down to 7,900. Here we go. The ISFD is always a good tool if you can't see the glide slope on your PFD yet. Down here you'll have it. So always a very good tool to use. Okay, let's use a little bit speed brake here. I'm going for like half or partial speed brake again, just to be sure to lose that airspeed we currently carry. Because if you look at this, we still have a true airspeed of 230 knots, even though our indicator is 295. Okay, clear for the approach. And approach is armed. And we have localizer capture, glide slope capture. Okay, 10 miles out, 214 knots, flaps 15. Runway is at our 12 o'clock. Checked. And since we have glide slope capture, go around altitude 9000 set. Still doing almost 200 knots over the ground, so let's go gear down, flaps 15. Flaps 30. Landing checklist. Landing checklist complete. So, just gotta get the aircraft completely in trim now. And here we are. Completely in trim, maintaining exactly what it should. That's how it's gotta be. So we gotta remember that we're in a hot and high situation over here, so the aircraft will have a tendency to float a little bit less than usual, so we'll just have to take that into consideration during the flare so that we don't bang it into the ground. Checked. Also note our true airspeed here, 170 knots over the ground. Even though we just have 150 indicated. That's the challenge with those hot and high airports. Checked.
Minimums.
Continue.
50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Okay, spoilers. Reverse green. Am I supposed to say decel now? You get where we are going with this. On those hot and high airports, it's really important that you use the reverser as much as needed to relieve your brakes. Okay, here comes our target exit, so manual brakes. And here we are, vacating onto Lima. So landed a little bit long, but I had a feeling the glide slope brought us in a bit too high as well, so I didn't see how I could make that aiming point here without really forcing the aircraft down, so should be good to go. Okay, we'll start the APU later, certainly don't need anti-ice here. Lights coming off, auto brake off, flaps going up. Spoilers in, and weather radar and terrain off. Okay, we don't have an after landing checklist here, and in the hot and high situation in which we are over here, I'm not going to do single engine taxi. We'll leave both engines running. So gate number 7 it is. Terminal 1 International, I guess. Gate 7 Heavy. That looks good. No follow me needed. Handling by Swissport. And that's it, my friends. Welcome to Nairobi. Just 4 hours and 20 flight time, exactly as predicted by SimBrief. And that's your hot and high operations in the 777 for you as well. Now, obviously, if we went a little bit further south, we might even have gotten 30 degrees in these temperatures. Think Johannesburg, Windhoek, and these kind of destinations. But 21 degrees is already pretty hot over here. Just take a moment to think about what eyesight deviation this actually is. So, some of you might have thought when I said hot and high, well, it's not really hot, is it? Well, you always have to think in terms of deviation from the ICAO standard atmosphere. And at 5,000 feet altitude, ICAO standard atmosphere is plus 5 degrees centigrade. So we're actually flying in ISA plus 16 conditions over here. So the 21 degrees we have up here have round about the same effect as 31 degrees on an airport at sea level. So that's the effect it has on your aircraft's performance. So really something that you shouldn't forget when you are flying into airports like these. Okay, then we'll go for the ground movement map. Some people like to stick the EFB up here on the window when they are using the taxi chart, so that you got something like this, but personally I think this is mounted a bit too high. I would prefer to have it down here on the clipboard, so that you can actually see something outside. But some people seem to like this, especially because you can do more or less this then, but in my opinion you can also do that. So okay, 2 minutes prior to arrival at the gate, we start up the APU. And then gate number 7 is going to be slightly on the left once we enter the apron. Okay then, down to a reasonable taxi speed, 10 knots for the turn. Here we go. And off to the left. So, scenery in use over here is Inibilt's Jomo Kenyatta Airport. For African airports, which tend not to have very highly detailed sceneries available, I really need to say that this is a pretty good looking one. Like, there could be a couple more details on the aprons and stuff like that, but overall, you will see in a few moments that the terminal interior is looking pretty good, and for African airports, this sure enough definitely is one of the very good ones. Okay, lights out, we're about to enter the gate. And here we are. So let's see how far forward they want us to go. And here we are, welcome to Nairobi. So parking brake set, APU running. Shutdown 1, shutdown 2. Cabin crew, all doors and park. All 4 lights on. Okay, engines are running down nicely. Shutdown checklist. Park and brake, set, shutdown checklist complete. So on an airport like this, you definitely want to use the chocks as early as possible so that your brakes can start cooling. So chocks are in, request the jetway please. You can also give us a ground power unit right here. And with the chocks in place, we can go ahead and release our brakes. Let's have a look at the gear page, see what the brake temperatures are. 600 degrees back here, 500 up here. Yeah, that's kinda to be expected when you land at an airport like this. Even though we only used auto brakes 2 and had the reversers take most of the temperatures, or most of the energy, you can really see what kind of effects all of this has. Okay then, so we set all doors in park, so disarm all, open 2, and then we can go ahead for the ground service as well, aft cargo, bulk cargo, and forward cargo. Well my friends, and here we are, we made it to Nairobi. Thank you very much for flying Emirates. I hope that you have enjoyed your flight. I hope that you liked the landing over here. Now let me know what you think about this one, and let me know how you like this style of video. I do really like to show the 777 off as the kind of aircraft it is, being a long-haul aircraft. And even though this was just 4 hours 20, and with that already on the short part of what the 777 would normally fly, I kinda refuse to do the very short flights because, well, that's... Even though the 777 is used for a couple of them, I kind of prefer to do those flights like this with an accelerated cruise. But let me know your feedback in the comments below. I'm very much interested in what you think about my approach to filming the 777. And with that out of the way, thank you very much for watching. If you're interested in a detailed tutorial for the 777, have a look at my ultimate 777 guide. More on that in the video description below. And finally, if you really like what I'm doing, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me Coffee link in the video description below. Thank you for watching. As always, like, comment and subscribe, and I see you all again on the next one.